Good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming in. I did. Some of you have briefing notes already on the topic today. I did want to take the opportunity with you to talk to Calgarians about the situation in the city now around the recent spate of violence, homicides, and stabbings. As I've asked our own service to try to articulate to me what is going on, this is actually a very good time now to talk to Calgarians about what's going on and what we are doing about it. I have with me today one of our commanders from our investigative supports area that want to talk about exactly what's going on and what we can anticipate. I do want to preface that you may ask questions about particular specific files, but appreciate that we're not going to be in a position to talk about specific investigations due to the sensitivity and the ongoing nature of the investigations. But I do think it's an opportunity to be able to clearly describe to you what's happening and what the men and women in the service are doing every day to try to bring some stability to this situation of violence and homicides right now. So to that, I'm going to turn it over to Inspector Davidson. I do want to, I do have to leave for a recruit graduation, so I may not be able to stay around very long. If there's particular questions you want of me right now, I'll try to answer quickly, and then I'll turn it over. And I do apologize for having to leave so quickly here. So,
Chief, violent crime is something we've been asking you about at least the past couple police commissions, or be it whatever outlet personally in the last little while. Why address this altogether publicly now? Because I mean, there have been a few brazen incidents without going into specifics right out in the public.
Well, it's just as I said, it's the questions I'm asking our own service. As you've been asking me, we've been talking to the service about it, trying to understand that what is exactly going on. What do we really know? How many of these are related to each other? And is there a trend occurring in the city? So as I start to learn more about it, as you've asked me, it's my responsibility to share that with you and Calgarians right now, so we can create some understanding, both what the men and women of the service are really doing, and then what we anticipate in the future. I can tell you this, that our service is clearly one of the exceptional police services in this country. We are doing everything possible in terms of our investigative capacity and our bringing our skill sets to bear into this to make sure we deal with this problem, and I can guarantee you we are dealing with this problem. But I think it's an opportunity time for us to tell people about that.
When people read this, Chief, you see all these numbers, it looks really scary. So can you tell us what CPS is doing to resolve the issues so Calgarians can feel safe?
I'll let Rob speak to that specifically, just on sort of those details. But again, I just would advise you, I really can't necessarily talk about narrow investigations, but I would talk broadly about all the resources that are being brought to bear in this, from our analytical supports right through our investigators to our frontline people, what they're doing every day, and amongst the other complexities of policing, what they're doing every day to bring this matter to an end. So.
Further to Gary's question, are you concerned by the numbers?
Yes. Yes, I am concerned. As every Calgarian should be concerned, that when people behave like this way, when they have such reckless disregard for human life, we should all be concerned about it, as am I. So.
How are recent budget cuts and staffing level concerns affecting this violence?
It is concerned. We're concerned, obviously, because the people in this service, the men and women who work here, are incredibly drained right now by what they're trying to accomplish. So yes, we are concerned about it. We continue to work with our commission and the council to find the best model possible to meet the demands of the day, but it's there's a lot of work going on right now, and it is draining. So that, I'm going to turn it over so you can talk to the subject matter expert on these issues. I appreciate your time, and I apologize for having to leave quite so soon. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Acting Inspector Rob Davidson. That's Davidson. I'm just going to read a quick prepared statement, and then I'll take your questions. I'm in charge of the Specialized Offender Unit, and that involves the Serious Habitual Offender Program, the High Risk Offender Program, the Priority Prolific Offender Program, and Organized Retail Crime Programs. And these are teams of dedicated investigators that manage and monitor high-risk and/or prolific offenders. As the Chief mentioned, our investigators have been focused on coordinating efforts across the service to collect intelligence, suppress future violence, and investigate previous offenses. To date, the identified persons are predominantly young men who have displayed zero regard for the safety of others, but even more alarming, have displayed minimal regard for their own safety. This makes them extremely dangerous, violent, and unpredictable. The risk these individuals pose to bystanders and innocent members of our community is exceptionally concerning. The violence is typically targeted to individuals within the group, as allegiances fluctuate amongst the members. Investigators are characterizing the group as very disorganized, fluid, and lack the hierarchical structure that we would normally see in a traditional gang. They do not self-identify on any specific name or names. Traditionally, gang and gun violence in Calgary can be tied to specific groups who have clear objectives and defined operational or oppositional groups aimed to gain control of the drug trade or criminal activity. Investigators believe the recent violence is motivated by perceived personal slights within the group, a desire to live a criminal lifestyle, and involvement in the drug trade. The teams across the service are working very closely together. These investigations are complex, particularly the extortions, kidnappings, targeted shootings, and home invasions, as they often involve a significant number of victims and witnesses, many of whom are not cooperative with the police. We are also seeing a significant crossover with drug and particularly property-related offenses such as stolen vehicles. Investigators have been successful in their suppression efforts, and a number of prohibited firearms have been seized and persons have been charged. We believe that we have been successful in preventing some future shootings. The investigative teams across the service are also working closely with our forensic investigators, and we're trying to tie together whether or not our seized firearms relate to any other shootings. The investigators believe that this is only a portion of the offenses that are being reported to police. Information from the public is crucial in our ongoing suppression and investigative efforts, and we're asking the public to come forward with any information they may have. Something as basic as reports of hearing gunshots or video from personal security cameras that may have captured an incident would be extremely beneficial in assisting us. We know that people may be scared, but there are ways to provide anonymous information. I want to give context to what we're dealing with. Between mid-April and the end of June, we had 8 shootings that we believe are loosely connected, and that resulted in 11 individual victims, unintended victims being shot, many of whom have significant life-altering injuries. This is a major significant public safety issue, and it's being driven by a very small core group of individuals. And our intention is very, very clear. Public safety is paramount, and it is our intention to bring a strong enforcement base coordinated across the service strategy to ensure that we suppress the violence and we hold those that are doing this accountable. Any questions?
What else can you tell us about what connects these men? You said they've got a non-traditional structure, but is there something else you can tell us about them? How are they related?
I would say that the relation is their criminality in regards to illegal occupations, the drug trade. It is very different than other forms of identified groups that we've seen in the past, where you can clearly throw a structure together. This is a very fluid group of identified individuals that seem to be bound particularly for their occupation in the drug trade as well as just a criminal lifestyle.
So this isn't like gang lines like we saw in the city before?
No, this is looking very different, and it's sort of motivated on 3 different levels that we've been able to identify. That we have home invasion and extortion, kidnapping type violence, which is used to generate individual profits. We have some violence which is retaliatory in nature between groups with individuals within the group that feel slighted in one way or another. And then we have some violence which is simply just around doing business in the drug trade to gain control.
So you said these crimes go back to 2012, but are we seeing a spike now, and why now? What's causing it?
So in general, those higher level stats are not necessarily specific to this group that we're focused on right now. That's the real struggle, is trying to figure out what the motivation is. It's fairly complex. Like I said, it's a combination of for-profit, doing business, and retaliatory in nature. So those 3 things have sort of come together, and we're seeing a spike certainly since last fall.
Have you identified or do you have people watching these 40 people or so that you say are behind a lot of this?
There's a reason why the Specialized Offender Unit is doing this. We're seeing crimes across all different kind of crime types. So rather than focusing on, say, mandates of specific work areas, what we're trying to do is bring an offender management approach. Rather than focusing on the crimes, we're focusing on the individuals. And so it's irrelevant to us as to what the crime is. We know that we have a small core group of people that are committing these offenses, and so our objective is to manage and monitor them.
Do they come from any particular communities?
No, they don't, and that's actually one of the things it's across. If you're asking about ethnicity or cultural, we're seeing a wide mix in there.
Or geographically, I'm also wondering.
No, well, certainly the map speaks for itself, but this is a citywide issue.
It seems to me like looking at the map, this is kind of almost a northeast or, above Memorial issue. Should people in these affected areas be concerned?
No, I don't. I wouldn't specifically say that at all. We're certainly the incidents that are reported to us, and I think I want to hit that home, that we're seeing we believe there's a significant portion of events that are not reported to us. Because what we're finding is that individuals that are involved will cross over, and one file be a witness and another a victim and another an offender. And so we're having low reporting. So one of the things we're asking for is for the community to step forward and report to police incidents, and that'll help give us a better portion or understanding of where the crime is actually occurring.
What assurance, though, can you give when you're a collateral victim or there's collateral damage, you have nothing to do with the incident? How can you assure businessmen, restaurants, and people walking the streets that they have nothing, or not nothing to fear, but less to fear than these stats would suggest?
A couple of things in there. First, the vast majority of the violence which is occurring is targeted in nature, and it stays within the group, and I think that's really important. What we're seeing is unintended victims in some of those. The assurance I would give them is this. We have done a very good job in identifying who these offenders are. We're building a much better analytical and intelligence understanding of who they are. That's allowed us to really focus and coordinate many units across the organization, general investigative, to specialty areas, so that we're bringing a very coordinated effort to first suppress future violence, and secondly, make sure we're very vigorous in investigating the offenses that occurred in the past.
But they're still out there.
They are, although I can tell you this, of those that we've identified, we've been very successful in incarcerating a number of them, seizing a number of weapons, and bringing charges to a large portion of the group.
Any last questions?
Just the biker gang members who are in town this weekend, do they fit into this picture at all, or is that something separate?
That's an entirely different narrative that's absolutely not connected to this.
I just wanted to ask, is this in any way related to the quadruple murder in the Sageville area?
I can't speak to any specific investigation or event that would occur. These are obviously very complex investigations on their own, and certainly when you start to look across a year or multiple year, it gets even more complex, so I can't speak to that.
So what assurance would you give to Calgarians that, we're not looking at another gang war, but the numbers aren't exactly reassuring either when we see a slight increase?
Yeah, definitely. We are not looking at a gang war, in my opinion. What we are looking at is a small core group of people that have very loose affiliations, that are, again, motivated by for-profit violence, motivated for control of the drug trade, or motivated by retaliatory violence. And the concern for us is the zero regard for public safety. And that is why we're bringing significant efforts to primarily suppress the group and then investigate them.
Have you identified a pattern where all of these guns that you guys have been seizing are coming from, and all these drugs that you guys have been seizing, and how does that play into a broader investigation?
It has been challenging in the sense that the firearms that we have been finding are all illegal in one form or another, prohibited or modified or altered, many of whom that we can't trace back, some that have, we believe, illegally entered the country and have never been registered. But it's weapons of opportunity, so we are seeing firearms come from all different sources.
Is an amnesty or anything being considered like British Columbia has tried in terms of guns and weapons on the street?
I think that would be very effective if you were law abiding, but I think the sense of when you are carrying and possessing and buying and using illegal firearms for personal protection or for carry out targeted violence, I'm not sure that would be successful and it wouldn't accomplish what we're looking for.